Have you ever spent 10 minutes looking for that bank statement in your email that you know the client sent you, but you can't seem to find it? Hi, I'm Tressa Pope, and loan officers triple their originations working with me because I teach their assistant everything else. All right, today we are going to jump into file labeling, organizing your digital file, because we got this request from Marissa Perez. So thank you so much for that suggestion. This is a great lesson. And I think it's a good dopamine hit, labeling your file folders. I find it to be fun. Anyway, we're going to jump into that because lost documents is wasted time, missed deadlines, and frustration for everyone. Not only are you and your team frustrated, your client is going to be frustrated if you've lost documents and they have to send you the same things over and over. So why should you spend the time labeling your file? You may have heard of the concept of sweat. Same way every time. You want to do the same thing the same way every time because it actually cuts down the time that you have to think about doing something. You can kind of do it automatically. But also everyone on your team will find what's needed because it'll be the same system every time. No guessing where or how things are saved. Easy to search things if you have the same system, you're labeling the same way every time. Also professional and scalable. So if you have a system on how you organize and label your files, when you are growing and building your team, it's easy to train because you have that system. I'm going to walk you through labeling examples for these main buckets. You've got assets, credit, income, title. So you may be in a state that primarily relies on title, or you may be in a state that primarily relies on escrow. So it could be escrow documents or title documents or both. REO stands for real estate owned. So you may have clients that own more than one property. Then you would put all of those properties in the real estate owned bucket. And then verifications. So verifications of employment, rent, other types of things. That's another bucket as well. Here we are with assets. So assets, as you can guess, would be like bank statements, investment accounts, retirement accounts, maybe even gift letters. Anything that they're going to use for down payment, reserves, closing costs. And here's some examples on how to label. So anything that's in that asset bucket, you can label it as asset, or I put assets with an S, but you could put asset or assets. And then I put the name of the institution. And then if dates are relevant, I put dates. So that way I know at a glance without having to open up the document, this 401k statement is from last quarter of last year. So this one they're not going to get until March. We may have to instruct the customer, we'll need your 401k online activity or some kind of printout that shows what your current balance is, because I know you're not going to get a statement until end of March or actually beginning of April. So credit is pretty self-explanatory. It's your credit report, any letters that you have to explain things on your credit report. So you might have to explain inquiries. So why your credit was pulled over the past few months. Put your credit report, make sure you date that, put the date the credit was pulled, because if you pre-approve someone and they don't find the house for 3 or 4 months, you're going to probably have to re-pull credit. So this lets you know when the last time it was pulled, January. Okay, so we're now in the summer. It's June. We definitely have to re-pull credit. You'll put inquiry letters in the credit section. So when I refer to liability documents, there could be something on their credit report they are not responsible for paying, or they don't pay. So they're responsible, but maybe they have a business. So they have a small business, and the business pays for their car payment or their car lease. And you have 12 months of canceled checks or banking activity statements, and you're going to put that in your credit bucket so that when the underwriter is reviewing the credit report, they can also see those 12 months of canceled checks, proving that someone else makes those liability payments. Income can be different things. This is kind of a standard list. Pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, and you have things that might be relevant if they are self-employed, such as a profit and loss statement. Sometimes they have to present or prepare a business narrative. If it's a self-employed borrower, you may be doing a bank statement loan or profit and loss loan. If you're using bank statements for income, you may want to put the bank statements in the income section and not the asset section. So it might be confusing, but that's just because if you're using bank accounts for income, the borrower may need a separate bank account for their down payment. You would want to put them in two different buckets. And then here's some labeling examples as well. Put the bucket. You always put the bucket first, what bucket you're going to put it in, income, and then the name of the document. So if they're working for this company, so I usually put the company name or even a shortened version of it in case they have more than one job. They've got their personal tax returns, they might have business tax returns, etc. Okay, so title, escrow, whoever your closing agent is, you might be using an attorney depending on your state. So this is where you're going to put those closing agent documents. That's your purchase contracts, any addendums, amendments to that purchase contract, counter offers. You're going to put title reports, plat maps, anything that you're getting from the closing agent. So that might be your closing protection letter, vesting paperwork, anything that is going to be from the closing agent or that you've pulled that's relevant to title, vesting, etc. Real estate owned. So this would be if your borrower owns additional properties. So you have your subject property, and if they are buying or refinance, you're going to put those documents in a certain bucket. But if they have other properties, this is other real estate that they own, you're going to put it in your REO bucket or your real estate owned bucket. And then here's some labeling examples for that as well. So that would be mortgage statements, HOA documents, or HOA statements rather, leases, property tax bills, insurance. And your goal is to document the PITIA. So that would be your principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and assessments or HOA dues. So you want to document that for each property that they own. Some title companies or county websites, you could pull the property tax bill yourself. So you could do that for the client if you wanted to. Otherwise, you have to request that from them. They could also pull it online. And then you would have to get things like their HOA bill, their home insurance directly from them, as well as their mortgage statements. And all of those should be the current one, not HOA statement from last year, but their current HOA bill. All right, for verifications now, some may argue that you want to put your verification of employment in the income section. And you can certainly do that. It's your system that you're going to design, that you're going to put together. The reason our team puts verifications in its own bucket is because we want to see what has been sent out. For example, we may have the VOR, the verification of rent, and we may label it, put VOR unsigned. So we put it kind of usually sits at the bottom of the bucket list. That way, when we get it back, we can then change the name of the document to completed and signed. So all of the VOAs in our folders are typically at the bottom so that we can track what has been completed and what is still outstanding. We also put under VOEs, if we pull any online business licenses, we may pull their tax certificate or their DBA or their business license from somewhere online. We'll label that as a VOE as we verify their business. You can also put that under the income section if that, works in, that makes more sense for you. There are tons of other buckets, tons of other things we could talk about. Here are just examples of other things. So you've got your appraisal. You have your subject property insurance. So this is the insurance for the actual subject property. You may not put it in the REO, but some people do. Some people choose to put it in the REO section. That's up to you. HOA documents. So not only are you going to have HOA questionnaires, you might have HOA insurance, HOA CC&Rs, HOA bylaws, HOA minutes. So tons of things that could be HOA documents. Pricing information. So if you are not licensed, you can't discuss pricing or lock loans, but you may want to pull the rate sheet for that day, the rate lock confirmation, put the date it was locked, and then pull the rate sheet for that same date. So that way you have a list of all the rates, all the pricing options. Or that might be something your loan officer does, and you could encourage them to do that. Hey, when you lock the loan, can you please Save the rate lock confirmation in the rate sheet that you used to lock the loan, just in case we need to make changes on the loan. As part of our aftercare workflow is we put final documents in our folder. So that way, if a customer calls us, we have their final note, we have their final deed, we have their closing statement, final CD, all the finals. So that way, if they need something for their records, we send that to them, or we send that to their team, such as their financial advisor, accountant. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through setting up your folders. What I suggest is whatever folders you plan to use, and I'm going to walk you through mine, is you make a new client template. And this way, whenever you have a new person that you're going to set up their folder, you just copy that folder and then you rename it the client's name. Number one, if I want my folder to appear in a certain way, then I'll put like a 0 or 1 so that they appear, in a certain order. And then if I want them to appear at the bottom, then I'll put like a Z. The system will automatically alphabetize everything. So, decide how you want it to be displayed so that it's easier for you and you have the same pattern every time. In my LO only, or loan officer only, or you could even put LOA only or sales team only. And that's because ideally, you, the processor, the loan officer, should all have access to the same client folder. Go into the loan officer only folder. There are some templates here I have of some forms that I use all the time. Doctor's notes is basically where I, the loan officer, put my notes on the file so that anybody can read it. And then I have submission sheets here that are filled out when we submit to processing. We have a lock request form. We've got some pre-approval letter templates here. 10 commandments are, well, I can show you. It's the do's and don'ts. So I go over this with the customer once they're pre-approved. These are the things you shouldn't do. I put that in there because I provide that to the client after they've been pre-approved and after we go through the loan presentation. So when you've got your own little folder there, then you got do not use. So your client may provide things that you actually don't need. And so you'll put it in here. You don't want to delete it, but you put in do not use just in case you do need it later on. So let's just say, for example, we didn't need this profit and loss. Put in here, do not use. PTDs or prior to doc conditions. So once your loan's approved, you can start putting your conditions in here. And these folders are kind of communication to the processor. That's how I see them. When I say loan officer or loan officer assistant only, it's basically to tell the processor, you don't need to go into this folder. This is for me and the loan officer. Do not use, that should be pretty self-explanatory. Prior to doc conditions we talked about. So as you're collecting things, instead of emailing them to the processor, you could put them in here. You could email the processor and say, all the conditions that you requested, I put in the PTD folder. First submission, so this would be when you first submit the file to the underwriter or the processor. The very first submission, you're going to put everything in here that needs to go to underwriting. Now, my team sometimes does TBD submission, so meaning we'll send it to the lender or we'll send it to the underwriter before they find a property on a purchase. We'll put things in here so that we know what was sent in. We still might transfer from here to here, or this may be a folder that we don't use at all. And then processor inbox, I typically like to deliver things here instead of putting things in the PTD folder, so that way the processor can review, and if it's an acceptable condition, then they would move it to the PTD folder. So here I store everything in this inbox. When clients will email me things or they'll upload documents to the secure portal, if there's something that the processor needs, I put it in the processor inbox. So basically they could pick it up instead of emailing, because things may be piecemeal to me, but I don't necessarily want to piecemeal to the processor. I will collect documents, put them in the processor inbox, and then when there's something for them to look at or notice, then I'll send an email and say, hey, there's about 5 different things that I've collected. I've put in the processor inbox. So review it when you get a chance and let me know if there's anything else that you need or if you have any questions. When I was processing or working as an LOA myself, loan officers would send me things that would get lost in email. And so I would say, can you please just put it in my inbox? In the olden times, an actual physical inbox on your desk, like a tray, and people would put documents in there and say, Oh, I put it on your desk in your inbox, like a mailbox. So you would go and check that. So I asked loan officers, well, when I was a processor, I would ask them to don't email anything. It's going to get lost in email. Put it in my inbox for that file, and that way I can find it. Now, I didn't say they had to label it or anything. They could drop it in. So sometimes they would drop it in with this weird gobbledygook right here. Now, normally I would open all these documents so I know how to label them, but I'm going to sort of just guess. We'll just say this is March. Okay, we'll just, we'll make up dates. So I've got, this is March, so this is April. These dates haven't happened yet. I'm doing it in the future. Unless you're watching this in the future. Okay, I'll just keep making stuff up. Allie, 226. Okay, this is the current one. So then they've got some businesses here. So I've changed the names to protect the innocent. So I'm going to change this. It's going to be the income bucket. Business tax returns, and the name of the business is Angel from 2021. Okay, it's got to be more current than that. So we'll change dates. Okay, so rename. We're going to do this as income, business tax returns. And we'll say this is more current. This is fictional, but I just want to give this to you as an example. Rename here. This is the income bucket. We don't need the word tax return on here twice. And this is going to be 24. So I'm just going to use a generic name. So I usually put ID, and then I put whatever the state is. So I'm in California. Oh, yeah. And I put whoever it is. So this is Corey. And then I normally put their expiration date so I know it expires, I don't know, 2028. And then let's see. This is in the credit section. This is the credit card for the pre-approval. If we need to order the appraisal, or sometimes some loan officers charge for the credit report. That's fine. So divorce decree, I'm probably going to put that under credit just because it affects liabilities. So I'm going to put that in the credit bucket, but it's up to you. You can leave it as divorce decree and have it be its own bucket. I believe this file was 2 buyers, so I'm going to put, and this is a California driver's license, and we'll say her name was Angel, and hers expires, I don't know, 2029. This is a high yield account, high yield savings. So we'll just say this is a different, this is an asset, and we'll just say it's, I don't know, Charles Schwab. Yeah, I'm putting future dates on there. I don't care. So because I'm going to go over this last, I'm going to put this little Z here. Oh, we've got a few more things down here. We've got this is a HOA questionnaire. And then we've got some assets that had U.S. Bank on here. But I can just press name and it'll, put everything back in there. So then this is all my asset section. This is my credit section. I've got HOA, ID, and then we've got income. So they're all in their own little buckets. That helps make it more searchable, easier to find everything. And that way when you get new stuff in, you know how to label it and you know which bucket it's going to appear in. The credit card, the processor doesn't necessarily need that. For right now, I'm going to put it in just the LOA only section. Everything else here, this can go to the processor. So I'm going to just put it in their inbox for now. And so everything's in the processor's inbox for them to pick up. You could also put it in the first submission folder if you want to do that, since it's the first time you're sending things to them. Okay, so here's some other examples of labeling. This was a document one of my LOAs put together. So I've redacted some client information, but as you can see, they labeled it a little bit differently. They've got asset, credit, but still the same concept where you're putting, you've got your income and they've put the dates and they put B1, like borrower 1, in case there was more than one borrower. They've got the REO section, which we talked about. They actually have written VOE here. They have like a calculation worksheet. They have some kind of global company. So they have like HOA bill, HOA letter, HOA condo limited questionnaire. So they have like sales contract fully executed. They have the different counter offers here. Now they did a different section. They had a tax return section instead of an income section. So they had tax returns separately from income. Your choice. So make a system that is going to be consistent and comfortable for you. Look at this. They've got the departing residents. So they put everything under departing, 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 departing. I would have done as REO. So they have like REO, rents on their primary. They have insurance, lease, property profile, reconveyance. So these are just different examples, different folders. Now, things on the outside I like to keep are things that we'll need to always maybe access. So I might put like the rate lock confirmation. So that way we know when the rate is going to expire. We know what the pricing is. The loan approval from the underwriter, the conditional loan approval. We might keep that on the outside so that everybody can see that. So anything that you want to access all the time that you want everybody to see. If you fill out like a loan submission form to the processor, you want to keep that on the outside. You don't have to put it in the processor inbox. You can if you want. Let's go back and look at that one more time. So we see we've got all of our buckets there and it is ready for the processor to review. Again, thank you so much to Marissa for sending in this question about file labeling. She's on a journey to get herself and her loan officer organized because he is looking to really scale this year. So I think it's great to set up your system so that way you have the capacity to not only help your loan officer scale their business, but also to keep you more sane and organized. Because as you're helping them, then more loans will start to come in. And if you don't have a system, you're going to get overwhelmed, but also be very disorganized. So I hope this was helpful to you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, send your friends and colleagues here, and I'll see you in our Skool community. Take care.